Hey, how's it going? I'm Allison, Sunshine Girls Painting.
And I'm Tone, the sun in Sunshine.
He is the sun and sunshine, all of the sunshines, not just Sunshine Girls Painting, all of the sunshine in all of the universes.
Pretty much,
yeah, it's true. We hope you're doing well this fine Wednesday. The weather has been kind of weird for August.
It's actually been really good.
Yeah, but not hot. Like, I like it hot. And
we had like a stretch of 30 to start the month off, and then we just had another stretch of 30.
I don't think it was quite 30. It didn't feel like 30 to me. It felt a little bit like September.
It was 35.
But that was only like a couple of days.
What more do you need?
I want a lot of it, and I don't.
Oh my goodness!
Right now,
Arizona.
It feels like
where your garbage cans melt.
Shh, stop. Quiet time. Go to your room. I think it feels a little like September weather. And my clients that I've been doing estimates with, they also think it's September weather. So it's not just me.
Yeah, but people also think that we had a really good start to our summer. And it rained all of June. So
fine. Anyway, today we want to talk about what are the parameters of paint.
Yes.
Right? Like, sometimes people think that paint is this magic pill. Like, paint is fantastic. Like, don't get us wrong. Like, paint is amazing. Yeah. But it's not the be all and end all in every situation. And there's lots of areas that will go and estimate places. And it's just like, oh, is paint really the best solution here? And I am a big fan of saying to people, nah, don't paint that. I talk myself out of work, or us out of work, all of the time.
So do I.
Yeah. Because we're here for the long haul. We want to build relationships, and I don't want to waste people's money. And so there's a couple of things that come up a lot. One of them are like open rafters under decks. So, when you've got the deck there, and then you've got like the beams that hold the deck up, and then the underside of your decking, sometimes that's left open, and people want to have that painted. And so what's your take on that?
It could be one of two ways. Some people, if you have like one of those Duradex on top and everything like that, it's not really a big deal. Water ain't going to get onto it. It's going to get no weather exposure. So it's going to hold up for a really long time, whether you paint it or not. Mm-hmm. Some people think it doesn't look nice. So aesthetically, you're going to want to paint it because it's just wood. And eventually wood grays, and it gets black, and mold builds on paint surfaces. So you can't hide the mold. But it's not like, at that point, I think it's a preference.
Right. Well, typically when I'm doing estimates and somebody wants the underside of a deck sprayed out, I often recommend that they get pricing for soffitting as well, because sometimes if we were to paint it and then in 6, 8, 9, 10 years, I left 7 out for some reason.
7, 8, 9.
Huh?
Because 7, 8, 9.
7, 8, 9. Yeah, and then ran away and didn't like 12. I don't know.
This is what I get to deal with all the time.
Yeah.
Jealous?
This COVID brain. Spending too much time alone in my own head. So if you're getting your house painted every, X number of years, and you're going to get that repainted every time, they're not always that cheap to paint, just because it uses a lot of paint. And it's labor intensive, because you do want it back rolled so that it presses in and holds and lasts longer. But you're spraying and coming back and forth, and you're trying to get all those really weird angles, and it can just get time consuming. And so I always suggest to people, just get it priced out for soffitting, because it may just be a better solution. You're not going to see all the spider webs. You're not going to get birds nesting up in there. And sometimes it's just a smarter solution. It just looks cleaner, less maintenance. So those are the three kind of things. Yeah. One, do nothing. Leave it as it is. The other thing is that you can spray it or maybe soffit it.
Yeah.
If it's new, though, you really want to make sure about the pressure treated.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pressure treated is a style of wood you can get, as I'm sure some of you or a lot of you know. But what you guys don't know is that pressure treated wood is treated with chemicals, and so you can't paint it within the first year of it being up. It has to weather. So if we were to paint it, it would more than likely fail very quickly. Mm-hmm. So you want to make sure that you have enough time for that chemicals to be naturally
Like the
pushed
gas
up.
off.
Gas
Yeah.
off's another good word.
Now, that having been said, there is new pressure treated now that can be painted, but
Apparently.
you need to know the difference. And I kind of like to wait just because whenever something new comes out, I always want to really make sure that somebody else has practiced a lot with it before I start selling my clients on it. The other thing you can do too is power wash it off. If it's imperative that you paint it. We had somebody who they had a floating dock, and they wanted it all power washed off and painted. So we don't recommend it because what's the point of getting pressure treated if you're just...
And it's not always necessarily a for sure thing that'll happen because it's chemically treated.
Yeah.
So that means it's pressed in through the wood.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So know what the limits are, and so that's something to pay attention to. The other thing is gutters. Like, so gutters on the house, you know, sometimes people will have, like back in the 80s, it was really popular to have green gutters, that forest green kind of color. And people are like, oh, should we paint it now? Well, just wait, don't make a face. It'll come back. Everything makes it come back.
Especially the 80s stuff.
The big hair. So when you're painting gutters, what products do you recommend for it?
So you're going to want a product that can go direct to metal. Because most of the time, if they are fresh gutters, they are going to be powder coated. So you're going to want something that's going to adhere to metal. Now, having said that, there is a particular coating on gutters that you will not know it has until you paint it. And without knowing what it is, if you put a product on there, say, for example, all surface enamel from Sherwin-Williams, a direct to metal product. However, the powder coating system that they have on there, you need a primer for, so it'll just strip away.
Surprise!
We had this happen to us. I've only had it happen once in my time of painting, but it is becoming more of a popular thing, so it's one thing to be aware of. But to be safe, always use a metal paint or a direct to metal paint. For example, an ASE, all surface enamel from Sherwin-Williams, which is a direct to metal.
Yeah. And painting sometimes, so factory finish is almost always going to give you a better, longer finish than paint will. Yeah. However, when your gutters get to a certain place, like sometimes there's white gutters that maybe haven't been cleaned often enough, and they start getting the mold and mildew that's growing on them actually starts growing into it, and it leaves them looking really grubby, and it takes off that finish, and they look dirty even if they're clean. Painting then is like a good option because it's a band-aid until you actually get around to replacing it. So you could get you. So I have a house and we painted the gutters black, and I thought I was going to maybe need new ones at some point, but it's now been close to 20 years and it's held up just fine. I haven't had to replace them. So gutters are one of those things that, yes, they can be painted. Just know what it is that you're getting into. Same with the downspouts as well. Yeah. So painting on decks. Decks are the bane of our existence, and I'm so sorry for bringing it up.
So decks are a difficult topic because you can paint them, and if you don't power sand or any of those other kind of things, your deck's going to fail probably within 2 to 3 years religiously. Paint is not like...
And if you power sand, it's going to fail.
Eventually it'll fail. There's no good answer. You might get a little bit more time out of it, but not much more time. There's no real good answer to decks. Lots of people use like a semi-transparent stain or translucent stain, which looks really pretty until it starts to fail. And the moment that it starts to fail, it starts to peel, you kind of have to either power sand it all off and restain it, or you're going to have to go to a solid. Then you have to find the right solid that can go over top. It can be just a nightmare of things that happen with decks. And because it is a horizontal surface, if you don't get a horizontal paint, you're in big trouble.
It might last like 3 to 6 months, maybe.
Especially out here on the wet coast.
Yeah, because so there's a difference we should mention right now between vertical paint and horizontal paint. So vertical paint is the stuff that you're going to put on your wall, and it's good for walls, vertical surfaces. Horizontal paint, which is decks, the tops of handrails, window sills, anything flat needs a horizontal paint. It's slightly more durable. Oh, it's a lot more durable. Not necessarily the right solution for a vertical surface, but it is a solution for the horizontal surface. So if you got 2 years on a deck with a horizontal paint, you might get 3 to 6 months, and it will peel horribly with a vertical deck or vertical paint. So make sure you're using the right product and you ask lots of questions. I have a house with a deck. Some of the boards will hold up for years, and other ones are like, they just look terrible in a year, and no rhyme or reason. They're right next to each other. Wood is just going to accept paint differently. There's more hard grain. Maybe it's not biting as well. Who knows?
Yeah.
So decks are the bane of our existence because we know when we put them on that they're probably going to fail. So I like to encourage clients to paint them themselves if at all possible, because you know it's just going to have to get redone over and over again. There's other substrates you can get, like you can get Duradeck, you can get the aggregate, the vinyl.
Yeah, it's a composite.
It's a composite, sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's complications with those too, because your deck has to be constructed differently for them, otherwise they sag.
Yeah.
But there are lots of decks. So if you are lucky enough to be watching this before you build a wood deck, explore all of your options first, so that you know what it is that you're getting into, because education is key. But while we're talking about decks, I want to talk about decks that are slippery. Sometimes people are wanting us to put like a silica sand in the paint. I'm personally not a big fan of that. That's that grainy sand, like powder that you put in the deck, or you can sprinkle on after that's been, it's a silica sand that you put in the paint, or you sprinkle it on after the deck has been painted. I kind of see it as a false sense of security, because in your wear patterns, like that path that you walk from your door to your stairs, it starts to break down, and then you think you have protection, but you actually don't, because it's all worn down. And then as you wear it down to your bare wood, there's obviously nothing there anyway.
Yeah.
So what do you have any solutions to offer up for slippery stairs?
There are some things that you can do. You can use the silica sand, like we said, but it's not very good. It's all with like almond flakes and stuff like that as well, almond shells or whatever. There's also like strips you can buy that screw in to the front of your stairs, which are quite common. Some people have used roof shingles, which also work really well.
Yeah. I like recommending skateboard strips.
Yeah.
You know, the skateboard, they have those long, narrow things that their feet sit on, so that they have some grip when they're doing all their fancy tricks. They're nice and clean. They're easy to paint around. If you need to bring them up, you can bring them up. And they don't sit too high, so there's no tripping hazard with them. So, the paint is protecting your wood, but that doesn't necessarily mean, especially here on the West Coast, where things get pretty slimy, it is something that helps with that. Oh, and another thing they can do for the slime, the bleach, water, and TSP.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you know how things get kind of slippery and slimy and gooey, if you, when the weather is dry, if you get one of those garden pumps, those pressurized pumps that you can use for weeds and stuff, and you use bleach, water, and TSP in them, and you put that on the slippery surface, what it does is it kills the spores. And then you have to let it sit for 20 minutes.
Minimum 20 minutes.
Yeah. You can let it sit for 2 years. I don't care, as long as you let it sit for a minimum of 20 minutes. And then you put that on, and it kills all that stuff that's making it slippery, and then you can just wash it off. That makes a big difference. And we find that you don't have to clean it as often. Often what will happen is people will power wash. It'll seem clean, look clean, but those spores are microscopic. And so they're like, woohoo, we can just grow like crazy now. And people find that they come back faster and faster. So you got to get rid of them. Yeah. So any other things that come up with you about painting and when it's good and when it's...
When you were talking earlier, one of the things that I always like to say is painting's makeup. We can only do so much with paint. We can't fix deficient walls that aren't square. We can't fix those.
We can't make grainy wood look smooth.
Yeah, there's lots of things that we can't do with paint. What we can do is make it look fresh and shiny. But when that happens, sometimes it exposes the flaws, and there's nothing we can do about that. Yeah. Again, paint has limitations, just like everything else. And sometimes painting's just not the best option.
However, paint does protect. So make sure, and I say this all the time, make a date with your house every year and really consciously look at it. Look at your soffits. Are they coming apart? Are any of the panels slipping? Is your deck starting to peel? Look at the bottom of your doors. Is it creeping up, like the moisture creeping up? Is the brick mold on your door frame starting to fail? Really get conscious about looking at your house so you can protect your investment.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Alrighty.
Is that everything?
That's all I got.
That's all I got.
If you have any questions, feel free to shoot us messages either here or you can Facebook us or send us emails. We'll answer anything you got.
Yeah. And please don't feel like you have to hire us in order to ask us a question, because that is not the case. Education is really, really important to us. And we are happy, very, very happy to just answer any questions that you may have. So, yeah, thank you so much. I'm Allison.
I'm Tone.
Open up your house.
Let the sunshine in.